Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of the Gridiron Glory podcast here with Tad and Will. We're here to bring you extensive, all-inclusive coverage of the 32 teams in the NFL. We are only doing that for one more week, though, because next week is Super Wild Card Weekend, and we're still going to talk about those playoff matches, of course, but all 32 teams will not be involved in that equation, so this is the last week we're doing it. So part of talking about all 32 teams is covering the New York Jets, who beat the Miami Dolphins 32-20 in Week 18. This was the regular season and season finales for both of these franchises. The Dolphins were hoping to possibly win this game. They also did need a Denver Broncos loss, which the Broncos were playing the Chiefs B string unit, so that just did not happen. So, yeah, they were scoreboard watching, but as that game progressed on, it just the fate of the season dwindled away in the Mile High City for the Dolphins. They have just, they have the Chiefs bench to thank for that. So, but really, I would say the biggest thing that occurred for the Miami Dolphins this year was, the insane roller coaster health for Tua Tagovailoa. They're the defense with lots of issues, just a lot of inconsistencies. Is Mike McDaniel that guy that can lead this team to the promised land one day? We just don't know yet. Mike McDaniel as a head coach has shown lots of great things, but and Tyreek Hill, now you even got Tyreek Hill talking about maybe he wants out. So just a lot up in the air right now for this Miami Dolphins franchise, Tad. And for the New York Jets, it's so crazy with me for the New York Jets because just a week ago, we were like, they checked out for the season. They were playing like they didn't give a crap. Tat, it just blew me away that, like, wow, they were like, okay, here we are at home against our division rivals. Like, we can knock them out of the playoffs. It's just mind-blowing. Like, they wanted to have one little last hurrah, I guess.
And I think a part of that was that the uncertainty around the future of Aaron Rodgers. Could that have been his last game? I mean, if this is Aaron Rodgers' last game, he wants to go out well, and he did just that. He got his 500th career touchdown pass, 23 of 36, 274, the four touchdowns, one interception, and reestablishing the longtime connection with Devontae Adams, 6 for 88 and a touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tat, this Jets franchise, not too much better than their New York counterparts, the Giants. Just both of the franchises that occupy MetLife Stadium. It's almost like MetLife Stadium itself is kind of cursed right now. It's cursing these two franchises. But let's start with the Jets. You finished 5-12. Tad, we expect, listen, in preseason, we talked about it with Aaron Rodgers and everything. We expected the Jets to compete for the wild card spots.
Yeah.
And they totally did not live up to those expectations. Robert
Yeah,
Saleh,
no, not even close.
a big part of that was their head coach getting fired early in the season. So, Tad, I guess, what's your biggest takeaway from the Jets franchise? What do they need to do in the offseason? They may, obviously, last season we harped on the offensive line. They improved that. So I would say that they probably need to maybe start improving. Still keep working on that offensive line. Devontae Adams is great there. But like you said, Aaron, I would say, okay, maybe now you need to start working on the next future quarterback. Really.
For sure, you're going to look at the quarterback. You're going to look at the biggest decision that assuming they keep the same front office and they don't fire the front office, the biggest decision for them is going to be who's going to be your next coach, who's going to lead this football team, who's going to be the guy to um be the leader. And honestly, I'm not quite sure myself just how much that matters with this front office, because this front office, they kind of just do the things their own way. Obviously, in my take, I don't think the issues with the Jets had much to do with Saleh. I don't think he was the problem. The defense got a lot worse after he was removed from his post. And So I think they need to, if they're going to keep this front office around, they need to focus on getting a head coach and just letting him do his thing. Let the coach coach.
Let the coach coach. Let the coach. I mean, but that just might need to be maybe that is the biggest position they need to fill is the next head coaching job.
I
And I mean,
think
you
so.
got guys like Bill Belichick snooping around the NFL. Well, actually, no, he accepted that job at UNC. Never mind.
He
Uh,
accepted the job at UNC, but he's kind of still like got one foot in, one foot out. I mean, you never know with Bill Belichick. He's a sneaky guy, but I mean, he's left open the possibility that he'd come back to the NFL. That's not a closed door.
it's not a closed door. So I mean, he was at one point a defensive coordinator for the Jets. So who knows? Maybe they go after Belichick or something like that. But I would say for this franchise, I mean, yeah, that quarterback's going to be important, but you need to go out there and you need to find like the next head coach, like an actual head coach that you can let coach and that you
Yeah.
trust to coach. I would say that is the biggest thing the Jets need to do. Like we harped on it last season with their offensive line. This year, I would say go out there and get a damn head coach that you can trust.
Yeah. Because there's some impressive players on this roster. This isn't a roster that's devoid of talent. You have Brees Hall, you have Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner on the defensive end, Will McDonald. I mean, this is not a roster that's devoid of any talent. I mean, Quinnen Williams. So this is a roster that you look at this roster, and if you give them a good coach, if you give them a quarterback that's going to be able to be more consistent, maybe you could see a world where this roster can compete.
It's a hard world to see, but it's possible. They just need to go out and do it. For the Miami Dolphins, Tad, obviously, probably the biggest storyline for them this season was the injury to Tua Tagovailoa and some other injuries as well. I would say, just some inconsistency and more so than not health issues for the Dolphins.
Yeah, you got a lot of inconsistency, a lot of health problems. And now I think at this point you really got to ask yourself, how long can this Tua experiment last? I mean, when he's healthy, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Like he's showed that he can put up incredible stats. But he's never really had a chance to lead a playoff run just because his health is just it's not been there. I mean, he's not been in a position to be a
To me,
real
like
leader.
the Zion Williamson of the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, a pretty similar situation.
Like
Yeah,
we're like Zion in the NBA, one of the best players in the NBA right now when health. It's the same with Tua.
it's
Like
the same with
like
Tua.
they're two of the same kind of player. It's crazy.
So, like, if I'm the Dolphins, I'm getting to the point where I want to ask myself, like, am I going to continue this experiment? Do I when's the time to pull the plug on it? I mean, I guess. I mean, because your franchise has basically been in limbo for the last
I
what
mean,
5 years
but at the same time, it's like they want to do right by Tua. They want to give
for
Tua
sure.
a chance. It's a it's a very humanly, emotionally complicated situation when you're
Absolutely.
kind of looking at it because it's like you want to do right by Tua, but it's like, my guy, can you stay healthy for us?
And of course, then there's also the whole Tyreek Hill situation. Of course, I mean, he's a player that's obviously not getting any younger. He's a super seasoned veteran at this point. He's so Tyreek Hill, I mean, you had one of your seasons that I mean you were hoping to have a much better season, and obviously some of that has to do with the fact that you had the inconsistent quarterback play. But I mean, he failed to top 1,000 yards for the first time since 2019. He had a career low 6 touchdowns. I mean, what do you do with Tyreek Hill at this point? I mean, he's getting up there in age where, I mean, it's to the point where do you need to get up some more weapons there to help him out?
Do you need to get him some more weapons? Does he need to go to another team? Would he be a better fit somewhere else? Um, just really sad, And
Yeah.
honestly, Tad, it was very clear that the Dolphins kind of gave up in the second half. I mean, they probably what happened with the Dolphins is, I mean, yeah, like obviously, you score the two garbage time touchdowns, but Tad, the morale, you could definitely see a difference in the morale in the second half with this Dolphins team. They were obviously scoreboard watching and saw what was going on in Denver, and you could just tell. You could tell.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely tell that there was a whole different mood in the room. But I mean, just like I said, it's an older roster. If you're Miami, I'm not entirely sure what you want to do next. I mean, I say you give it a run. I mean, you try to have another run next year with who you can bring back. But at this point, I mean, they're in a situation where it seems sooner rather than later they're going to be in the middle of a rebuild situation. And right now they have the 13 pick in the draft, so we'll just see where it goes from there. But it it could get it could this situation could progress quickly if things go poorly for Miami.
I would say maybe you try to draft a quarterback and maybe start developing him just as a contingency plan for Tua.
And even if you don't, you have to address the backup quarterback room. I mean, it wasn't good enough this year. I mean, and you know what you have with Tua, and he's a guy that can miss some games. So you need to address the backup quarterback room one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted to see better play from the backup quarterbacks. I mean, just because it's like, okay, we've seen some pretty upper level backups like Cooper. I would say Cooper Rush is probably the best backup quarterback in the league right now. I would probably rank Cooper Rush amongst backups number one. But obviously, you can be a top caliber backup. I mean, but even if you're not, you still need to be a serviceable enough one, and they just weren't serviceable enough.
No, definitely not.
So that's something that needs to be addressed. I put that on the quarterbacks coach specifically because every team has a quarterbacks coach. So I am calling you out, sir, and you need to develop your backup quarterbacks better in the
I
offseason.
kind of put it more on the front office for not bringing in better backup quarterbacks in general to build around. At least
Uh,
that's the way I saw it.
yeah, that is a very fair take. Yeah, but so that's kind of just where we're at with these two franchises, with the Jets and the Dolphins, both very, very disappointing seasons compared to what we predicted in the preseason for them, sir.
For sure.
They're going to have a lot of questions to figure out in the offseason and on draft day. So, yeah, Jets win 32-20. I didn't really have any other final thoughts or takes on Jets and Dolphins. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Catch us next weekend for Super Wild Card Weekend recaps on the Gridiron Glory.